Hi everyone, and welcome to the week 11 module. This week you're going to be outlining your papers. Now if you remember, the outline is a gateway assignment, so it's important that you put some time and thought into this assignment so that it meets the requirements of an acceptable outline and you're able to move right ahead into drafting your half draft. So let's take a look at what we have this week. First we have this short, very short little book that introduces you to outlines. It talks about what an outline is, why we outline, and then how to make an outline. And what's different about this assignment is that you're really given a lot of freedom in how you create your outline. I don't really have a set template or set guidelines, so as it says, you can use any outline template that you'd like, but it should follow a basic structure. And we'll talk about that when we get to the outline assignment and look at the sample outline. You also have a link to a short PDF reading from Washington University, or I'm sorry, the University of Washington, that talks about how to make an outline. Be sure to read through this because it does give you a sample outline, so if you've never crafted one before and this is a really new concept for you, this gives you a pretty solid template to use, and you can fill it in with the information that we need. So going back to this week's module, that is your only reading. It's very short, and you'll notice that as we move forward, the readings are going to get shorter and shorter or non-existent. Because you'll be doing more and more writing, more and more complicated assignments that are going to require more of your time. Therefore, I'm giving you less to read. We do have optional conferences this week. The sign-up is the same as it was before, although there are rather limited slots. There are not as many slots as there are students enrolled in the class, and this is simply because I assume that not everybody's going to want to or need to conference, and that's okay. If you'd like to conference, please choose one of these dates and times. And if none of these dates and times work for you, shoot me an email as soon as possible so that we can set up an alternative time for you to conference. Make sure that you hit Save My Choice once you choose so that Moodle saves that for you and it doesn't leave the slot blank so someone else signs up. The optional conferences chat room is right here. This won't pertain to you if you choose not to conference this week, but for those of you who are going to choose to conference, this is where we'll do it, right here. And then let's get into what everybody's doing this week. This week we're working on the outline assignment, and like I said, it's really kind of up to you how you decide to do this, but there are some requirements. Now it's important to note that this is not a basic general outline. This is a very specific outline. A lot of students do a quick generic outline, so basically just throwing in, say, a topic sentence for each paragraph, and the whole outline is maybe 1 to 2 pages, and that just doesn't score very well. Typically those are unacceptable, and I wouldn't even say typically, I'd say that those are always unacceptable outlines. Definitely avoiding bulleted lists or basic, 1 paragraph summary of what the paper is going to be about. Those are all going to be unacceptable. Good detailed mapping outlines historically average 4 to 6 pages, and they incorporate a lot of detail and information about the paper. You need to have a clearly stated thesis, all the major points and subpoints you want to cover in your final paper. They need to be in the order that you plan to cover them in. You need to include the sources you wish to use to support your claim, and for this outline assignment, you need at least 10 academic sources, so at least 10 academic articles, and 4 of those must be at least 10 full pages. You need to indicate where those sources are going to be used, and you need to indicate where other things are going to be added as you complete or continue to work on the outline and move into the drafting process. And last but not least, your outline must follow all the guidelines for your documentation style. So it's really important that you are using your documentation style manual, because remember, each documentation style, as we talked about during our very first assignment, our documentation style research assignment, each documentation style has some different guidelines, different outcomes, okay? So we want to make sure that we're following the specific one that we've chosen. Keep in mind that you want to think about what you want to say and how you want to arrange it. And it's absolutely okay to mimic the style of the articles that you're reading, as long as you're using your own ideas. Once you've got a thesis and thought about how you want to organize the discussion, then you can start listing major points and subpoints. And then you can do things that sort of fill in the blanks, like indicate where you'd like to use sources, so on and so forth. You do not need to use direct quotations, for this assignment, simply indicating where you are going to incorporate the source and then including a properly formatted reference citation for the source is okay. But keep in mind, if you do use direct quotations, summaries, or paraphrases, you should also include in-text citations. So basically, you've got an assignment checklist here. This gives you the guidelines or the requirements of what you absolutely have to have. Again, we just went over those. And then, of course, you have your rubric as always. There is a sample outline for you to take a look at. Again, it's not a complete outline by any means, but it gives you an idea of what yours should look like in terms of detail and possible layout if you like this particular layout. Like I said, there's about a million ways to do an outline, so I don't really care how you do it, but the detail and the information included therein is what's important. So as you can see, this is a very specific outline. I'm indicating where I'm going to use sources. I'm creating properly formatted reference citations for my sources. I'm including complete ideas, and this is just, like I said, a portion. So this should give you an idea of what we're talking about when we say a detailed mapping outline. You do have your assignment Dropbox here, as always. And again, the conferences this week serve a couple of purposes. If you just want to stop by, find out if all your gateway assignments are in and acceptable, how you're doing in the course, that's fine. But I would really prefer to use the conference time to talk about outlines. So if you are struggling with outlining your paper, or you're just not sure if you're including enough detail, this would be a perfect time, this conference time would be a perfect time to talk about that sort of issue. So please take advantage of that. One final thing I'd like to look at before we close out this announcements video is the course schedule. We do have a couple of things coming up that we need to keep in mind. First is, of course, Thanksgiving is coming up in a couple of weeks. So we are right here, we're in week 11. We have optional conferencing. Next week, when we work on our half drafts, I did have a required conference set up, but I'm going to change this to another optional. At this point, I think that anybody who needs the help is going to ask for it. I think that you know that you can ask for the help and that we can talk. So at this point, conferencing is going to be optional. I don't want to take time out of your week if you don't feel like you need assistance with drafting. That being said, I may ask you to conference with me if I think from your outline that we need to talk before you get into the drafting process, but this will be an optional conference. Also, remember that during week 13, the school is closed for Thanksgiving. So we are closed Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week. So you will have a limited amount of time while the school is, quote, open to peer review. But as I noted in the very first week of class, because we are an online course, things are still due. We still continue to progress. So if you know you're going to be traveling, you know you're going to be out of town, get your peer reviewing done early. This module is already up, and you can continue moving forward and working on this. Get your peer reviewing done early. But do keep in mind the peer review number 1 assignment is still due Friday, even though technically the school is closed because we're on a holiday break. We, as an online class, don't really observe the holidays because it doesn't affect us, okay? So keep that in mind. And then also just keep in mind that we are really moving forward here. We are already outlining, and we move very, very quickly into half drafts, full drafts, and then submitting our final paper. Last but not least, keep in mind that the cutoff date for revised gateway assignments is Friday, December 8th at 11:55 p.m. Anything that's not in at that point is just not going to be accepted. So make sure that you are staying on top of things and getting that done. All right, guys, that is going to be it for the week 11 announcements video. I am working very hard to get as many modules up for you as quickly as I can so that you are able to move forward at your own pace, especially with the holiday coming up here. So please be checking back frequently and making sure that you are staying on top of things, and let me know if you have any questions. Have a great week.